A three-way for mechanics is not what you think it is. Or maybe it is what you think it is. I don't know what you're thinking. But for clarification, it's also called a tri-tool, a Y-tool, a triple key. Regardless of what you call it though, it can be one of the nicest and most useful tools in a mechanic's toolbox. A three-way, not that kind, can be one of the nicest tools for a mechanic to have in their toolkit. That is, once you've met the basics. I mean, you need a full set of L hex keys, but of course after you've got that, why do you need more hex keys? Side note, I'm going to be using the term hex keys instead of Allen keys because Allen keys is technically a brand name, kind of like how Kleenex is tissue paper and inline skates are roller skates for people who don't like fun. Problems with a traditional set. The wrestle.
Real good girl. Biggest thing in my itty bitty world.
The trek.
Call her up and she made me feel right. Wish the bliss could never take flight. Sitting back with this mic in my hand, spitting hot shit, trying to see grand.
There's so far.
On my mind every minute.
One is the loneliest number.
Always in it, y'all. Such a vibrant thing, a vibrant thing. And even though we both fly, give each other space and not the.
So those are some of the traditional set's problems, but what are some of the advantages of a good three-way? Not that kind. You've always got torque and length, which is not always the case with a traditional hex key. Speed. Perfect pocketability. A three-way fits into almost any pocket and barely feels like it's there, unlike those bulky L keys. The right tool at the right time. This is the inverse of the trek, in that you probably have the right tool with you at the right time. We're going to take a look at 5 different versions of this particularly useful tool and figure out if they're worthwhile, starting from about free all the way to $122. So let's dive into these 3 ways. Not that kind. IceToolz is kind of the craftsman of bicycle tools. They play by daycare rules, you get what you get and you don't get upset. When I was 16, I was gifted some IceToolz that I still have to this very day. Are they still good? No. Are they accurate? No. But I still have them. Plus, IceToolz was putting a Z on the end of words way before it was cool. Park tool. I'm going to say they're the Milwaukee of bike tools. Actually, I'm going to say they're the BMW of bike tools in that they may make a pretty good product, but I don't want to own it. It's their brand guidelines. If you look at any channel that's sponsored by Park Tools, their overly aggressive brand guidelines feel very non-consensual. I mean, no one keeps their cone wrenches like that. No one keeps their utility picks like that. 99% of modern mechanics don't know what that is. It's a frame and fork straightener, and no one keeps them like that. I don't have a brand sponsor yet, but if I ever do, I will refuse to take on anybody who wants to assault non-consensually my viewers' eyeballs. Topeak. Topeak is the Topeak of bike tools. Topeak has foregone getting tipsy on a Friday night for the easy 4, 5, 6 three-way and gone with a gadget instead to spice things up. The Y-Speed comes with a ratchet and interchangeable bits. Abbey Tools. Abbey Tools is like the Rolls-Royce of bike tools, if Rolls-Royce made the original Toyota Hilux. The Abbey Tools is a 4-way, not a 3-way. I can't tell if I'm on board with this yet. It's a lot of appendages for me to be able to handle. I can at least say it's a new experience for me. Then there's this, the Goofentite. Brass on one side, bronze on the other. Technically, I made this myself. You know the Allen keys that you have left over from IKEA projects? The ones that you feel guilty throwing away and they don't have a home? Well, effectively I built an SCAD customizer that allows you to take the measurements of those and then print out a body for them to all fit in to become your own custom multi-tool. But before you go imagining your own Scandinavian 3-way, let's take a brief pause and run these things through some tests. I've organized a series of rigorous objective tests. Subjective. I've organized a series of rigorous subjective tests here to figure out what the pecking order of these things actually is, and I'm not sure I'm using the word rigorous appropriately. First, the weigh-in. This is less of a test and more of a stat. Sometimes you can make judgments about the quality of a tool based on how much it weighs, so let's see what everything does. In this test, we check to see if the hex key can make it all the way around the bar without having to change positions. This obviously won't work with every bar and stem combo. I've got a 70mm stem here with a 31/8 bar, so let's dance. The IceToolz is up first, and its shorter leg keys help it pass the bar just fine. The Park Tools AWS-1 passes with flying colors. Ooh, the Topeak is the first to fail the bar exam. The long dangly bit that it showed up to the party with just keeps getting in the way. That's okay. The long dangly bit is a ratchet, so I'll just use a little bit of the old back and forth with some of the bits that it comes with and we'll be done in a jiffy. Except we have a problem. You see, the Topeak bits only come with a 2mm, 3mm, T10 and T25 bit, as well as the Phillips head, and then the 4mm bit and the 5mm bit aren't bits, they just are. So it doesn't work in this scenario the way I want to unless I bring my own bits to the party. The Abbey Tools clears the bar with absolutely no problem and room to breathe. That being said, it's not quite as comfortable as a traditional three-way. The traditional three-way just has this nice crotch to grab, whereas the Abbey Tools has pokey bits everywhere when I try to grab it. That's unexpected. I mean, it kind of makes a lot of sense for that many appendages. Perhaps I just need more experience. Now, the Goofentite passes with flying colors because it's basically an IKEA knockoff of the Park Tool design.
We go on and on and on and on
This
and on.
is the Windmill Test. Long story short, there's an element of energy and time saving when you're spinning wrenches all day if something can hold its momentum. An L key doesn't actually hold momentum in its vertical position and in its horizontal position as much as it holds momentum. Oh, it worked that time. And in its horizontal position where it does hold momentum, it doesn't hold its own weight well enough for you to be able to just get it done quickly. A good three-way has a natural momentum and it just keeps going until it's done. Here's an example of what that looks like with actual people. What were you expecting? Oh my gosh. Look, if you're interpreting innuendo here, that's on you and society. I'm just saying words. Don't bring me into that bedroom. The IceToolz has a shiny finish to the keys, which kind of prevents me from getting good traction as I give it a good spin. And then more than that, its distance from here to here is a little bit shorter, meaning that I can't quite get my fingers in there as well to give it a good twist. The texture of the Park Tools gives my fingers a lot to grip onto, and then beyond that, the extra length and the taper give my hands comfortable twisting surfaces. Other than that, I imagine this cool spherical design adds some sort of aerodynamic advantage that I don't understand. Topeak fails this particular test as far as I'm concerned. You see, it's got these speed sleeves, which are effectively sheaths around the 4 and 5mm Allen key, which are designed to speed your work up, except I usually use the key itself to give it a good spin, and that just literally doesn't work here. So I'll adjust my technique. Holding the speed sleeve, I give it a turn, but I only net maybe half to 3/4 of a turn at most per turn. I'll try this little finger gesture, but that feels awkward and a little bit slower to be honest. But hey, if that's what it takes to get this off, then so be it. Now the Abbey Tools is too short for me to use using my normal technique, but if I modify that a bit, I find that this thing goes like a bat out of hell. Now the Goofentite suffers from the same problem as the IceToolz in that the texture is just a little too glossy to really get good traction on it, but at least the leg length is longer. Actually, it's a little too long on one side. The 6mm Allen key is too long. So that causes a little bit of an awkwardness in terms of how it spins. But that is an easily fixable thing with IKEA Allen keys. Hot. So the depth test is pretty basic. You just see if you can loosen or tighten the 5mm knuckle bolt on a pre-UDH SRAM derailleur. Simple, or surprising. First up is the IceToolz. No problem. Next up we have the Park tool. Pickety-boo. The Topeak. Alright. Oh ho 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 ho. This doesn't work. It can't actually get in there. This speed sleeve thing prevents it from getting into the actual hex. That's a major failure considering that this is one of the most common parts in the bike industry. Ooh. Now for the Abbey tools. At first, I was concerned that this chubby little stubber wasn't going to get in there, but it gets in there as deep as the Park tools does, and once it's in there, it has this kind of T-handle type experience, which is really, really nice. So, flying colors for the Abbey tools. Next, we have the Goofentite, which should be just tickety-boo. Yep, lovely, works a charm. Okay, and that's the depth test done. A precisely manufactured tool doesn't round your bolts out and lasts a long time, so each tool is getting a score out of 10 for how tight it fits, with 10 being the tightest. The Topeak is actually wildly tight, and I gave it maximum points. The Abbey Tools uses Wear-A-Bits and their Hex Profile Plus, which apparently helps prevent things from rounding out, and while it had no rotation while dead on center, it loses points because getting it dead on center was extremely challenging. The torque test. Now I'm only testing the Goofentite here because if it matters for the other keys, I feel like we should have seen a product recall already. And I've got some soothing to do of the naysayers of the 3D printing. So what I'm going to do is tighten this down by hand as snug as I feel like I should make it to the German standard after which this tool was named. That's Goofentite. And then I'm going to measure that against some torque wrenches and see where it got to. So that's at least 10 Newton meters that the Goofentite made it to. That's plenty enough for me and what I'm going to be using this tool for, and perhaps having the tool break at a certain Newton meters would be a feature, if that could be designed, which I'm not going to bother to do. So here are the results. On the left, you've got price and weight, which I'm not taking into consideration in scoring. The rest of the numbers are basically the scores, but ranked in a 1st through 5th ranking. And then the overall score is the averaged out score of each tool. So, the Park Tool AWS-1 is the one to get. It may be twice the price of the IceToolz, but it also feels like it's twice the quality, and it does everything that you would want, and $25 is still a pretty good price for something which you will probably own a long time. As for the Topeak, well, Topeak gonna Topeak. And I feel like their habit of adding additional complications is something that just doesn't really jive with me. I mean, I'm surprised this thing doesn't have Bluetooth. I didn't realize I'd been saying the name wrong. I thought the name was the Y-speed wrench, but it turns out I was putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. It's the Y-speed wrench, because it's got speed sleeves, which downright slow you down and stop you in certain situations. It also has this ratchet, which I can't use in the one situation that I would want to use it in its stock incarnation. It does have a magnet, that's pretty neat, but other than that, I'm trying not to say the word terrible. Irritating, frustrating, not good enough, intrusive, no, don't buy it. The Abbey Tools. On their website, it says something about not being willing to cut corners in the name of price. And I can feel and see that, but I don't think this is the category where I need that. Now in the States, this retails for $42 US, but in Canada, it's $122 Canadian. That's because of certain trade wars and tariffs and brokerage fees and things. And I just don't want to spend that much when the $25 tool does everything almost as equally well. Especially when you consider what I'm going to go with for my own personal choice of tool here. I'm going with the Goofentite. Why? Because I spent time sanding this down to a 3000 grit. And anytime you do something like that, you're emotionally invested. Plus, it works as well as the other tools in a lot of ways. It might not last as long in some ways because the Allen keys are made by IKEA, but I'll just replace them. So it'll last a long while and I'll have further emotional investment in it. You can make your own too if that's the kind of weird three-way you're into. I'll place a link to the SCAD in the description below. It's a pretty interesting file and allows you to do a lot of powerful things in terms of making your own. So the SCAD customizer is open for anyone to use. You can basically enter your hex key measurements and make your own tool. Hex, you can build a 6, 8, 10 millimeter three-way or use torque wrenches if that's what you want to do. Now, while we've been spending this whole time talking about three-ways, it's important to acknowledge that a basic set of L keys is the first thing you should buy. And arguably, one of these is the next thing you should buy. Of course, it's a matter of having the right tool at the right time rather than one tool being better than all of them. I hope this gives you some food for thought. I'm going to try and open this now just to see what's inside, because part of me just wonders if it's the same thing. I tried to see inside with a thermal camera, but that didn't do anything. So, oh well.
Yo, special girl, real good girl, biggest thing in my itty bitty world.